traditions, family traditions for Christmas, and by golly, you just don't mess with them, you know. If we didn't observe those traditions, it just wouldn't be Christmas, would it? One of the traditions is putting up the Christmas tree the day after Thanksgiving. Some folks have the family tradition that the day after Thanksgiving, the Christmas tree goes up. For other folks, it has to be a real tree. Okay? Christmas tree has to be a real tree. It can't be one of these fake trees. Some folks, I know some folks who do this, hurry home this Sunday after church, the Sunday before Christmas. They hurry home, unpack all the lights, haul out the ornaments, including the one that the kids made in elementary and Sunday school classes, and they put their tree up on the Sunday afternoon prior to Christmas. My friend Arlie Davis, who lives over in Parsons, puts his Christmas tree up on Christmas Eve day. Arlen goes out, there's a Christmas tree farm outside Parsons, and he goes down a couple of weeks before Christmas, cuts his tree, brings it up, stands the tree up on the porch where it doesn't get rained or snowed on, and if it has, where the moisture all melt off of it, the day before Christmas, Christmas Eve, he forces it through the door because it's usually too big to fit quite easily through the door, stands it up in the living room, and decorates it. Now, it wouldn't be Christmas for Arlie if the tree went up sooner. It just would not be Christmas. You know, there's nothing like tweaking the sacred tradition to kick people off. And it does. Most pastors have noticed over the years of doing Christmas Eve services that Christmas is the ultimate holiday sacred cow. You just don't mess with Christmas. For many folks, the biggest fear of the season is that Christmas won't happen according to plan. That something will go haywire with Christmas and ruin Christmas thoroughly. Many of us feel we've got Christmas planned down to the last T. And if it doesn't happen the way we've planned it, then just isn't Christmas. The truth is that, especially for us baby boomers, we've been trained to think like this, that if Christmas doesn't happen as we planned it, then something's wrong and it just isn't Christmas. You don't think we haven't been trained to remember all our childhood animated Christmas specials? The Grinch, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Charlie Brown, you remember them all? What's the basis of those stories? Someone's out to ruin Christmas to keep it from coming. We've been trained very well, we boomers have. And all must be perfectly restored to order for the season to be valid, for Christmas to be valid. This was made most evident to me when my friend Jim told me about his first Christmas Eve service as a pastor. Jim, like myself, was a second vocation pastor, and it wasn't long after Christmas that Jim came to me to relate what happened at his first Christmas Eve service. He went to the door to greet people after the service, believing that all was right with the world. When one of his longtime church members came to the door but refused to shake his hand, scowling, he said, "Thanks for ruining my Christmas. We didn't sing the first Noel as the second carol, and we have always sung the second Noel as the second carol in our order of worship for Christmas Eve as long as I've been going to this church. And so, without that, it's just not Christmas." I see John chuckling. My friend Jim was aghast. I mean, he thought he'd done a wonderful job, especially for his first Christmas Eve service just out stole Christmas. People just seem worked up for the smallest things this time of year. Indeed, you and I, we all have our own expectations, our hopes, our perfect scenarios, whether it be for the holiday or for any other aspect of our lives. And for some reason, we don't like deviation. No upside downness to our lives. The only thing I like upside down is pineapple upside down cake. All right? And the scriptures we read approaching the Christmas season, however, tell us that turning things upside down is exactly the agenda of this coming king. The prophet Micah wrote about a coming reversal of fortune for the people of Israel. The nation faced God's judgment because they've been turning from it. A judgment carried out by their enemies who would build a wall of siege against them. The old patterns of idolatry and corruption that characterized the reign of many of their kings had made the nation of Israel almost rich-like in its devotion to self-interest, material gain, and oppression of the weak. In the midst of the prophecy of judgment and tough times ahead, God still offered them some hope. A new king who would break this old pattern and, in effect, turn things upside down. And his origins from this lowly town of Bethlehem, one of the least, one of the little clans of Judah, are a signal that God is interested in overturning the human expectations of power and prestige in favor of uplifting the weak. This king will be a shepherd who will feed his flock in the strength of the Lord, Micah says. It is the humble, compassionate servant whom God chooses over mighty warriors and handsome princes. The word Messiah isn't mentioned in this passage of Scripture from Micah that David shared. He never mentioned the word Messiah once. But Christians have long read this passage as a messianic prophecy. Naturally, we apply it to Jesus as the one who would secure his people and be the one of peace. Jesus came amidst a swirl of expectations about a Messiah who would save his people and do it according to a preconceived, religiously approved plan. He was expected to wield a sword instead of a shepherd's crook and make peace by eliminating the enemies of Israel, particularly the minions of Rome, who occupied their land. The Messiah would make a list and check it twice, determining who was naughty and nice, and make sure the ultimate holiday, the restoration of Israel, would come according to script, complete with a happy ending and a long presence. My friends, the church does it today. We, the people of the church, do the same thing today. We make our list and we check it twice and we determine who's naughty and nice. And we make up our minds who God's going to send to hell and who God isn't. You know, it's not our choice. It's not our decision. I read Matthew where the gospel writer says that it's God who reaps the harvest and he sends his angels to do it. And it's God who decides who is wheat and who is chaff. Not you and I. Thank God it's not you and I. Everyone will be going to hell but us. But that's what was expected of the Messiah. He was going to come with a sword and kill all the enemies of Israel. Instead, Jesus does nothing less but turn their expectations upside down. He preached love over and against vengeance of enemies. He spent time with the outcasts and he proclaimed that there would be a new in-crowd. He was a great teacher, but performed as a lowly servant, even washing feet. And for Jesus, the categories of rich and poor, in and out, great and humble, even life and death, were turned upside down. It's no wonder that the traditionalists would argue that he was ruining everything. everything and want him out of the picture. To the strong go the spoils. No, they don't. The meek shall inherit the earth, Jesus says. This is a baby in a manger. Self-realization, self-assertion, sell your own brand, all marks of a go-getter, successful person. No. The people who leave searing impressions upon us are the humble who serve leaders among us. Christmas is about gift giving, wrapping paper, and pretty bows. No, it isn't. It's about receiving a gift, confronting the incarnation, God in the flesh. Despite what we sing in a way in a manger, remember there's a part in there where we sing, no crying he makes, in a way in a manger. Remember that? Despite what we sing in a way in a manger, the baby does cry out. He cries out for justice, for mercy, for compassion, for a completely new order of life in God's kingdom. This baby of Bethlehem is the one who turns the whole world upside down. Instead of celebrating the traditional uniformity of the Christmas season, or as Christmas as usual, we should be celebrating the upside down and backward nature of the gospel that Jesus ushers into the world. For the greatest among us is the servant of all. And those who would be first would be last. A manger-born Messiah, a counterintuitive teacher, a religious rebel to the establishment, a crucified king, a resurrected redeemer. Nobody expected this at the time. Would have been too much. Too off the map. Perhaps this year, folks, perhaps this year, you and I, could use a little less Christmas as usual and see the world instead from the perspective of the manger and the cross. Merry Christmas, student. And I hope to see you Christmas Eve. Let's stand as we sing our closing.